Assalamu alaikum and welcome to a very special episode of the Science of Soul podcast. Today I am going to be joined by brother Shazaad Hanif, who is a personal coach from Guidance Coaching, and man, it was a treat. We talk about some really interesting things like how personal coaching and self-development is really closely linked to a rich heritage and tradition in Sufism through tasawwuf and tazkiyah, and also about the situation that's going on in the world right now and how we can cope, and something really special and something that was kind of difficult for me, and that's brother Shazad actually gave me a one-on-one, like a live session, so stick around to see how I did. So yeah, it was a really interesting episode, and for anyone who has areas of their life that they are finding difficult and they want to work through, or anyone who wants to just be at the top level of performance that they can, definitely check this episode out. Before we get into it, I'm going to ask you guys kindly, please like and subscribe to the channel for more awesome videos like this. And if you're listening to this on Apple Podcast or Google Podcast, then leave us a review, because leaving us those reviews will really help our podcast get found by people who would benefit from this content. So yeah, enjoy the podcast and I'll see you in a sec. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother Jubair.
How's it going?
Yes, I'm good. Thanks. Thank you for inviting me, having me on your show. It's a great honor and privilege, and we've finally made it. We've been planning this for a while, haven't we?
Yeah. I'm excited, actually. I've been excited to get you on and ask you about a number of things. So yeah, you're right. It's great to finally have this time to sit with you. If you don't mind, I'll just get straight into it. How have you been doing and coping during this kind of really interesting and strange time?
Alhamdulillah. Yes, absolutely. It's a wonderful question. I mean, it's been a mixed bag of emotions, as it has been for many people. From kind of fear, extreme fear at one point when this whole COVID thing kicked off, to then trying to gather my thoughts and trying to implement all the things that I've learned over the years from my teachers and mentors, and trying to gather my thoughts, trying to limit and control what I'm exposing my ears and eyes, and ultimately my heart too. There's been challenges, but alhamdulillah, overall, alhamdulillah, I've been healthy, my family's been healthy. So alhamdulillah, I can't complain. It's been for me overall so far, it's been a very positive experience. I really feel like there's been a lot of good, a lot of positive realizations for people, a lot of community spirit. I'm sure we'll kind of delve into some of these things in more detail, but overall, very positive.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because when this whole thing was unfolding, myself, like I can only really speak for myself. I was very pessimistic and negative about how things might go. I was sad about the masajid closing down, and so there was this worry that, man, like when we come out of this, whenever we do, inshallah, it's gonna be for the worse. But the strange thing is, like, Ramadan has just gone, Eid has just gone, and the conversations I've had with a few people is that this has been their best Ramadan and their best Eid. So it's interesting that you say that it was for you, like, alhamdulillah, your family's healthy, but also there's been some positives. I wonder, in your case, because of your background and your skill set, did those things help you get through some of the difficulties of this period?
Oh, most definitely. I think, just having that kind of Islamic mindset where, we kind of have that reliance on God. We have that God consciousness, that taqwa. That is just amazing, strength, in difficult times. And, I'm not making any claims. I'm just an average person, who has his ups and downs, and my iman fluctuates like anyone else's, right? But just having that belief in something above and beyond yourself, It really is amazing strength, in difficult times. And then when I combine that with some of the things more recently that I've learned through my coaching journey, some of the tools, the mind hacks, the biohacks, and understanding how we are from a psychological perspective, and then fusing that with the Islamic understanding, I feel like really it's put me in a position where, I've been able to understand the deeper meanings behind what's going on, and also being a means or a catalyst for others to be able to benefit and take some solace and get some kind of some solace, I guess, in these difficult times.
Okay, so I guess that leads us to a great segue to actually talk about what it is that you do. You mentioned a few terms like biohack and mind hack and things like that. So it would be great if, in the simplest terms, if you imagine I was like a 10-year-old, and to be fair, I do have the mind of a 10-year-old, could you explain to me what it is that a coach does, like how you define yourself, what a coach does, and what people can take away from that?
Yeah, I guess in the simplest in its simplest form, and obviously I can only talk about my own experience and my own kind of methods that I use. I mean, coaches come from all backgrounds, from all walks of life. The beauty of the coaching industry nowadays is that a lot of it is based on intuition, self-help, things that your experiences in life. If you've had problems in relationships, then you're, a really good person to be able to help people. If you've been through a lot of those issues and come out the other side, so it's not really a regulated industry. That can be problematic in that sometimes the quality of the coaching can be substandard as well.
Hmm.
But definitely, I think, from my perspective, I try to help people through some of the challenges that I've been through in my life, where I was, struggling in my marriage, just going through the motions, just basically, remaining in that marriage for the sake of my children, because I didn't want to give them that instability. I
Hmm.
was in a dead end job where there was no opportunity, and just picking up a paycheck. And then, things spiraled downwards to a point where, I was sacked. I was like barely managing to cover my expenses. Like as I mentioned previously, the marriage situation was just, sort of hanging by a thread. My confidence was very low, and at that time, if it wasn't for my faith in God, my belief in Allah, um, it could have really, sort of damaged me a lot. But alhamdulillah, I'm grateful that I had that belief in God. And then I really just stumbled upon coaching. And coaching, I guess in its simplest form, or my understanding of it is, it's someone, having a coach is someone who is like a cheerleader, someone who believes in you, gives you confidence, to unravel the gifts that God has blessed you with, um, and then also challenges you. So it's really someone, who's there in your corner, who cares for you, believes in you, gives you the confidence that you need, but then also challenges, you to take that step, and move forward with your life. And I use this particular phrase quite a lot, and it's think big, start small. And
Hmm.
for me, that just encapsulates coaching. Like in a nutshell, where the coach is helping you to think big, but at the same time, he's using his experience and the skills that he or she has learnt to allow you to start taking small steps, which will ultimately allow you to reach your goal. So it's really great for people, who want to achieve success, want to achieve bliss in them, in their relationships, in their finances, in their health. It's a very systematic approach, very much psychologically focused, working on the mind, probing away at the person's mind, um, and getting them to a point where they really believe in themselves and they start taking those steps to, traverse this path that is life, right? And it's full of challenges and pitfalls. So you need someone in your corner. If you look at any discipline, a doctor doesn't become, qualified on their own. They have to go through med school. They need the qualifications. They need to be certified. I'm not going to let any old Tom, Dick, and Harry prescribe medicine for me, right? So, similarly with a coach, it's someone who's been in the trenches, has been through the journey, and they're qualified to be able to support you. So I think it's very important. But in its simplest form, it's someone who just allows you to take those small steps to achieve those dreams and those ambitions that you are able to achieve, but just have kind of lulled yourself into believing that you're not good enough. That little voice in your head that tells you that you're not worthy. You can't be a millionaire. You can't have a beautiful marriage. You can't be a teacher, an educator, an influencer, a means of guidance for others. It's all nonsense that goes on in our head that prevents us from flourishing and fulfilling our dreams.
What's really interesting about that description that you gave is that, to me, as someone who hasn't had that much first-hand experience with like that specific type of coaching, is that it sounds a lot like someone who is like a dear friend who can be honest with you and can give you motivation, but also critique you when it needs to be done. And I almost feel like in today's society, where we are a little bit more sort of cellular and separated from the community because of the internet and because of the modern ways of working, I almost feel like people don't have those friendship networks and support groups. And so what you're saying just sounds so necessary for people, like everyone. It's not even people who maybe want to start a business and become millionaires. It almost sounds like it's necessary for everyone, because in every aspect of life, at least in the life that I've led, I've needed people to say, "Hey, you can do this," and "Well done, but tomorrow you can do better."
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, spot on. You need someone in your corner, and the challenge that I found was that when I was at a very low point in my life, going back a few years now. Yes, I was blessed. I had people around me, in my inner circle who cared for me, who were giving me great advice. But to be honest, sometimes, in order for you to release yourself from those shackles, um, you need someone from the outside looking in.
Yeah.
And for me, for me, it was my mentor, a chap called Chris Wally, at Decisive Coaching, who took time out for me. He'd give me 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there. I was broke, right? So I couldn't pay him. But I'd still just chance it and call him up on his phone in the hope that he'd answer, right? And bless him, the guy would just, whenever he had time, and to this day we still work together, and we have little catch-ups, once or twice a month. And I'm really blessed to have him. But he's just one of the mentors. I've been really lucky that a lot of people have come in my path, who have really helped me. But it's someone from the outside. If you've got an accountability partner within your immediate circle who's going to critique you, like you said, give you that encouragement, but challenge you as well, brilliant. But generally, friends and family, there's that emotional attachment there. And they're not necessarily they'll appease you, but they won't necessarily be able to challenge you in order for you to move forward, and overcome some of those limiting beliefs that play on our mind. So yeah, I think you're spot on there in that analysis. But you're right. We absolutely need someone, and any discipline you learn, you need a mentor. And even when it comes to religion, we need teachers. We have imams, we have scholars who give us that spiritual guidance. And it's absolutely essential, because otherwise you can get swamped with all different types of opinions, and everyone sounds correct. And you need to have someone who you trust, who you believe has your best interests at heart, cares for you, supports you, and then you just put your trust in that person and do as he or she says.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that you brought up the fact that we have spiritual guides and leaders like imams, and I couldn't help but think about how like in like Sufi traditions, you'll have a sheikh who you sit with, someone who almost, I guess you could, in a way, is that spiritual coach, someone who looks at your inner self, and gives you, I guess, motivation and guidance and challenges to help you through this journey of life. Have you ever thought about the parallels between the two?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a great question as well. I mean, for me, this coaching journey has just really strengthened my faith, my conviction in our deen, in our religion, in Islam as being a religion of truth. It's just solidified so many beliefs that I had previously because what I've seen with personal development is that the source of personal development is actually a lot of the scriptures. And we as Muslims, we accept and celebrate a lot of these scriptures. Okay, we maybe have a difference of opinion in the sense that a lot of those scriptures aren't preserved in their original form today, um, which is probably what separates the Quran as from the other scriptures. But there's just so many parallels there. Like, I mean, even a lot of these gurus and these mentors out there in the personal development field, they have this inner wisdom. They look at life with different lenses, and they almost can see through you sometimes. And I've definitely found that in my coaching journey. I mentioned Chris earlier, where sometimes he was just telling me things, and I was like, just like, whoa, this guy, is he reading my heart or what? And you mentioned the Sufi sheikhs, and this is traditionally what the role of a sheikh was, where he because of his sacrifice and his um, abstinence from the dunya, when a disciple will come to a sheikh, the sheikh would be able to see that person's heart and give him the spiritual sustenance that he needs. Just like in the same way the doctor writes that prescription and you don't doubt it because you trust his knowledge, you take what he gives, you say thank you. This is the same thing with the sheikh, and but it's a journey, and you have to. There's not many people like that out there. As you know, Sufism itself is something which is very much misunderstood in our modern times, and there is a lot of sort of negative connotations attached to it. So you have to be very careful how you tread. You have to find a guide, someone who's qualified, who's been through the journey, and definitely there's so many parallels there between coaching and the whole kind of spiritual path, I guess.
It's incredible that you can see that parallel, because the more you sort of went into that and described the role of a sheikh and how finding the right sheikh, you have to be careful. I've noticed, just in a little bit of research I did in preparation for this conversation, that even in coaching, especially on YouTube, there is a sort of there seems to be a little bit of a movement of identifying certain coaches and gurus as, not fake, but not having the right credibility. And there's others who, these guys are legit and they've been around. And it kind of almost makes me think about how there is, in our own Muslim community, there is, or there was a big movement in the last sort of 20 years with moving away from traditional Islam and like the Sunni Sufi orthodoxy, because of the fact that maybe there were certain people posing and hurting the name of I guess you could say Sufism and that those traditional paths. So, like, with that in mind, how would you advise someone to find a coach that they can trust and that they can grow with?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I've learned from my Islamic teachers is that you should always, whatever discipline you learn, you should always learn from the best. And it's not that difficult to find out who the best is in any particular industry. Even in the Islamic realm, generally, we can tell who are who is the real deal. Okay, who are the sheikhs that and teachers who have longevity? They've been around a long time. They have knowledge. They have like in Islam, for example, we have this ijaza system, right? So which is a very mashallah, it's a beautiful system where the person, the teacher you learn from, he has a written license, he has an ijaza to teach that discipline, whether it's fiqh, whether it's hadith, whether you're learning seerah, whether you're if we're talking from a Sufi perspective, then the science of tasawwuf. The person who you learn from, he has this chain of authorization, which goes back all the way to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam,
Sallallahu Alaihi
peace and
Wasallam.
blessings be upon him, and ultimately that chain goes back to Allah Himself, subhanahu wa taala. So similarly in coaching, there are people who have been around for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. They've seen so much. They've traversed the path of this path over such over decades. They've seen so many different challenges, and yet they're still going. They've managed to remodel themselves and understand the times that they're living in. And these are the people that you want to learn from. And if you learn from the best, even if you can't be like them, you'll end up somewhere close. Um, what's that saying? Is that you reach for the sun, you might touch the stars, right? So yeah, I think that is one foolproof fail-proof method, I guess, of ensuring that you're taking from the right source. And look for people who have been there, been through, been down that path, who have been around a long time, who people speak highly of them, their reviews, their testimonials, their students. They are a great embodiment of this teacher, and I think that is the key really for me.
Okay. How long have you been doing this now in your journey of being a coach?
So I've been doing the coaching for approximately, well, since about 2016,
Oh
um,
wow. Okay.
end of 2016, 2017. I just had so much resistance around doing, just even putting my face out there, and then so much self-doubt about coaching. How can I coach anyone? I'm struggling in this area. I'm struggling in that area. But I think that if you wait for perfection, you're never going to get it, right? And
Yeah.
we've all got so much that we can share, and I'm sure you've got your own story as well, brother Jubair. Where if you look back maybe 5, 10 years, and how you've come through some of the challenges that you've had in your life, right? And where you are now, there's so much that people could probably benefit from. But we just kind of beat ourselves up and dumb ourselves down and say, oh no, it's for someone else, that's for such and such a guru or such and such a person. That's not me. Um, but I think coaching is it's just amazing, right? People sometimes get caught up in terminology, and for example, somebody will say, I'm not really good at taking instruction from someone else. I actually had a client, say that to me once, and the way I kind of responded to that was, look, hey, I'm on your side here. I believe in you. I want you to succeed more than you do. Okay, because you're in my prayers day and night. I see my clients as my family.
Yeah.
And I'm just a cheerleader here. I'm just a facilitator. I'm not a coach. I don't know anything more than you. What I'd say is not right. It's not wrong. It's just based on my own experience. And when I broke it down like that, this person realized that she was just caught up in the terminology, and that's what we do as human beings. We just get caught up in words and titles, and it's that ego thing, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm very hesitant to use the word coach because I like the word facilitator. I think it's just someone who's just trying to just connect dots here and help people just achieve their purpose, find out what they do, what was their purpose on this earth, and
Yeah.
then give them a mission which they can really resonates with them, and and if they can achieve a good living out of it, that's a bonus. And that's what I'm doing. I'm blessed that I'm able to earn a living doing something that I love, and I feel like it's rewarding. It's something which, inshallah, will be a means of my salvation in the life hereafter. Just if I look at some of the feedback that people have given me, some of the reviews, some of the changes that have happened, that I've been a means for in people's lives. Um, Alhamdulillah, it's just a great blessing, and I ask Allah to just every day. I thank Allah that I'm in a position, I'm in a blessed position where I'm a means of bringing goodness in someone's life. But don't get me wrong, we're coaches, we're human beings, and we have our own issues. We have our own stuff going on, but
Yeah.
that shouldn't derail us from helping other people, because when we help others, we're helping ourselves. And the secret to life, is just it's just being like a candle. and just burning yourself in service of others. And that really is the essence of life for me.
That's amazing. Just as you kind of touched on it, can I ask, like, not that you need to like go into anyone's particular details and story, but could you tell us the kinds of people that you've helped and how people out there who might have these particular issues could sometimes see themselves as being, say, too bad or in too worse of a situation that they can't get themselves out. So maybe if you could tell us a few stories of the types of people that you've helped in a very anonymous way. Anyone who's listening who kind of sees themselves in that situation might get inspiration to reach out to you or to another coach.
Sure, sure. Yes, absolutely. I mean, I've really been blessed in the sense that in a short space of time, I've had people from all walks of life, people from all cultures, all faiths, people who don't believe in faiths, mashallah. And it's been a quite a difficult learning curve for me as well, because as soon as I got into coaching, I really had some tough challenges. People on the verge of divorce. I had one brother who was suicidal.
Wow.
And alhamdulillah, within 30 to 45 minutes of speaking to him, alhamdulillah, he felt he was a lot more positive about his future moving forward. And these were people that I was like connected with at the early stage of my journey. I mean, I'm still just building up my knowledge, my experience, and my kind of my brand. To be honest, it's still very much in its infancy. But from an early stage, I've been exposed to some really tough situations. People, as I mentioned, feeling suicidal, people feeling depressed.
Hmm.
So many examples of people feeling depression and anxiety, and I've over a period of time, I've started seeing a trend, seeing a pattern building with a lot of these cases. And I think that a lot of the problems that we have in life today just stem from fear.
Hmm.
And the antidote to fear is just having that sense of gratitude, being grateful, and trying to adopt some kind of gratitude routine,
Hmm.
because prayer on its own or dhikr on its own can become very ritualistic, and
Sure.
it can just be something that we just tick off the checklist. Oh, I did my Surah Yasin this morning, and I did my awabin or whatever, right? But
Hmm.
actually, if you spend 5 minutes, and hopefully, inshallah, we'll come to this in a little bit more detail. But if you spend 5 minutes every day just closing your eyes, thinking about the greatness of God, the things that He's created, looking at starting from yourself and then spiraling out, looking at your health, your blessings, having a family, having food, shelter, clothing, thinking about it, actually verbally blessing, thanking God for all of those things. You spend 5 minutes doing that every day. There ain't going to be much room for suicidal and depressive thoughts. Trust me, right? But it's about adopting these routines, replacing those old habits with more, kind of productive habits, productive routines, which will serve us in a better way. But going back to the original question, yeah, people from all walks of life, business people, people who are very successful in business. I've managed to help them go to that next level
Hmm.
by giving them some tips and some ideas about how they can systemize their business so they're not working in the business, they're working on the business, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So there is yeah, it's been a real mixed bag, real mixed bag. And I initially thought that I would just focus on the Muslim community, and focus really on kind of people going through marital problems.
Yeah.
But subhanallah, I've Allah has His own plan, and I've just been kind of just been a real I guess just like a life coach, in some sense, where I'm just helping people with all sorts of issues. And I've been blessed that the mentors that I'm learning from, I'm learning things about finances, I'm learning things about relationships, I'm learning things about health and how to optimize and how to kind of set up triggers which help you to achieve those goals and set good productive habits. So yeah, real mixed bag at the moment. So I need new coaches to come on board. So if you're looking for a career change, brother Jubair, let me know.
Mashallah. Actually, just based off that and the fact that you have such a diverse range of people who you've helped and who you've worked with, can I ask sort of like a two-part question? So, part one of that question is, what are the common features of some of the difficulties that you see? Like, as you mentioned that you started noticing there's patterns, and I would be really curious to know what's some of the despite people coming from different ethnic backgrounds or race or even religious views or no religion, despite that, what are the common things that they have? And then the next part to that question would be, like, you're a Muslim. I wonder, do you approach helping them with some of that sort of like creeping into your coaching and sort of influencing the way you approach them, or do you separate it per person and it's like a very, very different approach?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I mean, I think as a coach, you've got to try and be objective, and not get caught up in some of the emotional baggage. And I find that difficult sometimes because the people that I'm trying to help, I see so much of myself in them.
Yeah.
So, for example, if someone is, you know, feels like they're not good enough to start up their own business, I can so relate to that because I was in a dead end job for years and years and years, right? Just feeling like, that this was what was written for me. This is qadr. This is what's destined for me. I should be grateful, alhamdulillah. But we live in this, in these modern times, in the year, 2020 now, there's so much opportunity in this technological age. You don't have to necessarily just rest on your laurels and accept whatever you've got, and not you can do better. You've got everything at your disposal. I think for me it's challenging sometimes to be able to keep that balance and not get emotionally involved, and to stick to my structure of, or my curriculum, as it were, of how I structure my sessions.
Hmm.
Because I really sometimes want to just grab someone, just shake them, and say, like, sort yourself out. I've been there, and it's you're just gonna go down this downward spiral, and things aren't going to get better. And but if there's one, as I mentioned earlier, if there's one recurring theme, I would say it's fear.
Hmm.
Fear of failure, fear of
Okay.
not being good enough. And that is like the source of so many people's problems. It's just that fear. It's where it stems from.
Hmm.
Whether it's someone who doesn't know whether to stay in an abusive relationship. So, for example, if there's a sister, she's in an abusive relationship, but it's that fear which is holding her back from getting out of that relationship, because that's what she needs to do.
Hmm.
She needs to get out of that relationship because that is harming her spirituality. It's harming her ability to be able to move forward in her life. It's harming her health, her physical well-being. Um, People are just like just getting in. Ultimately, what people need to do is get out of their own way. That's what we're all doing.
Hmm.
We just are stopping ourselves, limiting ourselves. And a business person, who is earning 100K a year and wants to now go to 500K or a million, the biggest obstacle to that person's business is him or herself, because that person is too hands-on on the business, and they're not delegating tasks, and they're not looking at ways to systemize and automate their business.
Mm.
So it's just really, I think the patterns that I see, it's a lot of it stems from fear. And for me as a coach to really detach myself from that is very difficult. But alhamdulillah, I think the way to do it is to have a curriculum, to have a structure to your session
Yeah.
with your client, so that you go through things step by step. If I just grab someone straight away and say, look, this is what's wrong with you, let me give you a few slaps and you'll be all right, and here's a gratitude routine, and it's not going to work, because I need to build some rapport. I need to build some trust with them. I need to share my story. I need to bare my own soul to them in
Hmm.
order for them to then open up to me, and that comes through a period of time. That's why a lot of the coaching packages I offer, they start from 4 months, and
Okay.
then kind of they move forward from there. Because after 4 months, we've covered the core areas of their life, like their health, their finances, their personal and professional environment, their career, business aspirations. By 4 months, we've covered, because I've got like 8 main categories that I work on with my clients. So
Hmm.
after 4 months, we've covered all of those 8 categories.
Hmm.
So it's just it's being patient. I think that's been the toughest thing for me as a coach, in trying to help people. When you know what the problem is straight away, but you have to step back and you say, no, I have to go through this gradually, because I didn't open up immediately when I started, kind of having mentors and having coaching sessions. It was a gradual process. If my coaches or mentors were too, kind of firm with me too soon, if they were tough on me very, early doors, it would have just pushed me away.
Mm.
I would have thought, nah, that's just too aggressive. I don't
Yeah.
even know this person. Who the hell does he or she think they are? So, yeah, I think that is the big challenge. That it's just being systematic in your approach. And alhamdulillah, I think I've managed to get that system in place, which allows me to move very at a very gradual pace.
Yeah.
But sometimes you see some of these coaching gurus, and they have these seminars, and they literally within a few minutes they can have they can cause massive breakthroughs. Tony Robbins is a great example of that, and he's someone that has had a massive impact in my life, to be honest.
Yeah.
I just stumbled upon him on YouTube a few years back when I think I was looking for advice on marriages and stuff, because I was going to all the imams and the teachers and attending all the Islamic retreats, and the advice was amazing.
Yeah.
And I was sharing that advice with other people as well, but it just wasn't clicking for me.
Yeah.
This is what I mean about the coaching. The coaching comes, it breaks it down, and makes you understand things from a psychological perspective, and gives you some practical tips to be able to implement some of the advice. And then I was like, whoa, now I can implement what such and such Shaykh was telling me, and I can really do it from a coaching perspective. It's so much easier now. So people like Tony Robbins, they use the audience. They have they have seminars where there's 8,000, 10,000, 20,000 people, and they use the crowd to be able to instigate that breakthrough, that change in someone literally within a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
But the reality is, when you're working with someone privately, one to one, you've got to be, and he uses very strong language as well, and it's very deliberate on his part, to kind of change those patterns of behavior,
Hmm.
to really kind of rewire them, their way of thinking, to really rewire their mindset. But when you're working with someone privately, one to one, and I'm sure even Tony Robbins, when he works with his private clients, the change that takes place is a lot slower, and it's gradually implemented over a period of time. And I think that's the secret to coaching, is that just being very patient and having a process in place and sticking to it step by step.
The I guess the theme, because it's because you've mentioned it as something that's recurring, is fear. The fear on my part would be that I'd be very scared to get so transparent and open up so much with someone about certain areas of my life, because that's how we are as human beings. Is we like we have secrets, especially when it's to do with areas of our life that we feel like are flawed. So what would you say to someone to sort of allay those fears and ease them into a sense of security so that they can make those breakthroughs? Because I imagine, like, for example, with Tony Robbins, like, a lot of those people wouldn't make those breakthroughs unless they admitted to something that's holding them back, or going to certain places in their psyche and in their emotions that is difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. Um, it's a difficult one because um, I think us men, right? Let's just talk about men here. Us men, we're ajib. We're very strange. We're a strange creation of Allah. Okay, we don't like opening up. We
Yeah.
find it very difficult, and men will, and I did this for so many years that I just felt it awkward, felt very awkward, found it very difficult to discuss my own personal stuff,
Yeah.
intimate stuff with anyone, right? Even family and close friends. It is just, men. It's very common. Uh, Women, on the other hand, they tend to, like most of my clients, for example, are women,
Hmm.
and they find it a lot easier. But they have different types of challenges.
Sure.
But they definitely don't have a problem opening up. Um, so, ultimately, I think it comes. There's a combination of things here. I think one is that you've the one who's thirsty has to come to the well. Okay, so you are the one who needs. If you need the help, then you've got to make that move. You've got to kind of you've got to draw a line somewhere. If you've been doing something for so many years and you're still keep getting the same results,
Yeah.
sooner or later the penny has to drop that I need to change what I'm doing in order to be
Sure.
able to get a different outcome.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that there's two aspects to this. I think the coach can be very meticulous and very careful and considerate of the client as well, and the coach can help the process by being, like I mentioned earlier, very open
Hmm.
and bearing his or her soul. And I always do that whenever I always have like a strategy session with my clients, which is like the initial discovery session where we have to get an idea of whether we're going to be a good fit for one another.
Yeah.
And I always start that session by saying, allow me to just give you a little bit of a background about myself. And I usually speak for about 2 to 4 minutes, and by the end of it, more often than not, the person is just a lot more relaxed, and they thank me and they say, "Oh, that was inspirational. It was really, I really benefited from listening to your story." And I know now, right now now they're gonna be a lot more relaxed. They're gonna speak to me when I ask them questions, when I probe. They're gonna open up. Not always. Like I said, it's more difficult with men,
Hmm.
but it's you've got to. I think us men, we just have to sometimes just realize that it ain't working. Whatever we've been doing, it ain't working, and we need to try something different. And I really, honestly, I got to a point where I just wanted help, and I felt like there weren't any Muslim coaches out there, because I wanted to go to Muslim coaches because I felt like they could relate to my situation better,
Yeah.
especially in my marriage. And um, just they just weren't any out there.
Yeah.
And there were a few sisters, but it was awkward with for me as a man to really open up, and be fully transparent and bare my soul to a sister, and kind of get all those skeletons out my cupboard and bare everything. It just wasn't comfortable, right? So I feel like we need Muslim coaches. Honestly, we really, really need Muslim coaches, both
Mm.
female and male.
Yeah.
But I think male Muslim coaches, I haven't seen that many.
Yeah.
If we just talk about relationships, and I speak to other coaches and I interview other coaches, and I always try to promote Muslim coaches. And so far, I've not come across one Muslim relationship coach, who
Mm.
specializes in marital conflict, for example, or
Yeah.
divorce, or those types of things. There's lots of counselors, and people sometimes, think that coaching and counseling are the same thing, and
Mm.
they're completely two separate, kind of entities. I also went down the counseling route as well. I did some CBT therapy when I was going through some of the issues that I was experiencing, and it was all helpful. It was, they've all got good things, all these different therapies, but for me, it was coaching really, kind of helped me to propel myself and move forward and accept the things that weren't quite right in my life, but
Hmm.
take those small steps to move forward.
In your definition, what is the difference between counseling and coaching? Like, in the most simplest terms, how would you define the two?
Yeah, I found with counseling, just obviously once again, it's just my own personal experience, that it was just there was too much focus on the problem, whatever
Hmm.
that problem was. Why do you feel this way? What do you think has caused it? And like CBT, for example, it was. I just felt that the sessions weren't very interactive, where the
Mm.
coach or the therapist was just asking, not really contributing much. Maybe at the end of the session, if they felt like I was, I remember one session where the therapist printed out some information about assertiveness,
Hmm.
just based on him listening to me. And he said, I think you'd be, really benefit from this. And that was much appreciated. But that was probably the only real kind of, insight that he gave, or information that he shared with me. A lot of the sessions, it was just me just talking about the problems, and I felt like I was just kind of just going round and round in circles.
Mm.
Um, I'm sure it works for people, but it just, for me, it didn't really work. And I know
Okay.
there is that, kind of emphasis on getting the patient, to talk about their problem, and then when they talk about it, they more often than not find the solution themselves.
Hmm.
Um, but I think with coaching, it was just like, I love the interactive element to coaching, where the coach will probe away at your mind. So just for example, like you mentioned earlier about transparency, right? So you said that you find it hard to, to be transparent. So as a coach, I would then counteract that by saying to you, okay, brother Jaber, um, like, what is your biggest want right now? Like, what is your need? All right, let's put the transparency thing to one side. What does Jubair really want? Let's go deep here. Do you see what I mean? And then
Mm.
you'll be like now kind of trying to kind of go a little bit deeper, think a little bit more analytically, and think, where am I going with this? Maybe I just don't actually feel quite fulfilled in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a certain area of my life where I feel like there's more. I can give more. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I'll say to you, okay, but okay, so if you want to, kind of be more fulfilled in this area of life, why do you want to? What's your why? Why do you want to be fulfilled? Right? Now, for
Mm-hmm.
example, if you said that, I want to strengthen my connection with Allah, and I ask you why, then you'll say, you could possibly say like, oh well, I feel like, I can do more, I have a stronger connection with Allah. I could be more mindful of Him, in my passing moments. I can be more consistent with my tahajjud, right? You could say so many things, right? And then I'll say to you, well, what's the pain? What's the pain with you not being able to have those things right now?
Yeah.
You see what I mean? This is very interactive here, and then so I guess I am pushing it back to you, but the questions I'm asking are really probing away at your mind and getting you to think deeper. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, you're doing the work, but the coach is just jumping in every now and then and asking those questions, and then you'll maybe reply to me and say, well, the pain is that I just feel this sense of frustration. I just don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel like I'm the you know, as righteous as I think I should be. I feel like I could help people more. I could be a means of guidance for other people. And then I'll say to you, okay, let's visualize this. And I'll just stop you in your tracks and I'll say, so one thing that's key for a coach is that you've got to interrupt people. I know from an Islamic perspective, it's quite rude when someone's speaking, we interrupt. I mentioned Tony Robbins earlier, swearing, but in coaching, sometimes you have to do these things. I try
Yeah.
not to swear, but sometimes I do use strong language.
Yeah.
But it's like sometimes you have to break the pattern. So you could be in full flow talking about, oh, this isn't right, that isn't right, oh, I'm just a shambles and this and that, and I'll just jump in and say, oh, brother Jaber, did you just burp there, or did you break wind there, for example, just to break your pattern? You'd be like, huh? Break wind in a
Yeah.
burp? What do you mean? And then I'll jump interject and I'll say, okay, let's just do a visualization exercise here.
Yeah.
And let's just imagine that you have this amazing connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's fast forward. Let's traverse through the passage of time. Imagine you're swimming underwater and you come out of this stream of the other side and you have everything. You have that beautiful life now, that connection with Allah. How is life now? Where are you living? What kind of places are you visiting? And then you might turn around and say to me, oh, mashallah, I'm doing Hajj Umrah every year. I'm taking family and friends with me. I'm traveling the world. I'm exploring the wonders of Allah's creation. I'm building orphanages. I'm building hospitals. I'm feeding people. Life is just so beautiful. Smiles are everywhere. I have 4 wives, whatever. I'm just joking, right? But, like, it's just like, when you do that visualization, you start building this kind of this mindset that you can actually achieve these things just by thinking about them.
Mm-hmm.
And then just imagine if you had a daily routine where you do this, where you thank Allah for all those things that you've not even achieved yet. And this is what I do. And I feel like it's one of the secrets of my success. And I don't mind sharing it, but some people might find that a bit woo-woo. But it's worked for me, and like I said, I share what's worked for me.
Yeah.
And I thank Allah for things that I haven't achieved yet. And I've
Yeah.
seen those things manifest themselves in my life. I've started getting involved in projects for, feeding the homeless and, um, you know, taking care of orphans and helping people all around the world through my coaching. These are things that I was thanking Allah for even before they happened. And
SubhanAllah.
subhanallah, Allah has just put people in my path, which, I just used to like imagine doing interviews like this. That, I could say something, maybe one thing I say, and somebody could really benefit from it. I did a podcast interview the other week with a revert brother, which his audience are people who are thinking about coming into Islam or are new Muslims.
Yeah.
And some of the feedback I had from that was like, it's just amazing, like the way you really fuse the Islamic understanding with the coaching, and we just felt so like motivated, so pumped, about like how this religion is so beautiful and so misunderstood, and
Yeah.
how you can use the coaching, the psychology to kind of really fuse the two. Um, these are things that I was thanking Allah for even before they happened. And there's so much more to come. I really strongly believe that there is so much more to come. There's so much more success ahead. But obviously, with that, the challenges do come as well. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean that I'm not being tested. I'm being tested in my health. I'm being tested in my relationships, in my finances. Those tests are there.
Yeah.
But my understanding of them is different now. I understand them in a different way. My mindset is different. I don't have a complaint or a negative kind of mindset now, where I'm always focusing on the negatives in my life.
Yeah.
So this is like, really is the beauty of our religion, to be honest. And then when you have that kind of psychological element to it and fuse it, it's just amazing.
Yeah. I think for myself, over the last few years, especially during the period where I started going independent with my business and doing video production full time by myself and not working for someone else, I started realizing the importance of having mentors and coaches. And I'd read books by whether it be like Tim Ferriss or sometimes coming across videos by Tony Robbins, and realizing there's definitely a massive role for this in everyone's life, regardless of who they are. But there's still been certain things that have been difficult for me to overcome. And so, if it's okay with you, and I'm not trying to, I know this is like this is a business for you, and it's not something that I don't want to take the mic, but if you'd be up for it, how about just a 5 or 10 minute session so that people can get a sense, like right now, if I did a session with you, and so people could actually see and hear what it might like, give them a flavor of what it might be like.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. That's brilliant, because what I just did previously,
Yeah.
it was a demo, but what I didn't do was put you on the spot. But now that you've kind of willingly put yourself forward,
I'm getting scared now.
so yeah, I guess are you up for just going through that whole process that we just went through now, where I was asking those certain questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Should we do it?
I think it would be interesting for me because I've never put myself in that spot to really force myself to that line of thinking. And I think also anyone who um is listening or watching might, I hope and I pray inshallah that this, like, some good can be given to them, that it might inspire them to come and reach out to you or other people like yourself. So yeah, let's do it.
Absolutely. Bismillah. Okay, so normally when I do this session, this type of session, and we're just going to do it in a very brief way, but if normally, I always encourage people to have pen and paper, and I give them little 1 minute, 2 minute intervals where when I ask them a question, I ask them to write things down.
Hmm.
So as I'm sure you're aware that there is a lot of research which shows that when we write things, it helps to really hard code it in our mind,
Yeah.
in our heart. So, but for the benefit of our viewers, we'll just do it out of, just a very brief kind of overview of how I would conduct the session. And it's just the same questions I asked earlier, but this time it's just going to be you obviously just giving your answers, and
Yeah.
let's see how that goes. So okay, let's go back to the question I asked originally about what is your want, Brother Jubair, right now? What does Brother Jubair want right now in his life? Whether it's in terms of your health, whether it's in terms of your finances, whether it's in terms of your spirituality and your connection with God, your career, your business, um, your marital life, your social life. What is it right now? What's that? One want that thing that you really want to, that obstacle or that
Ooh.
something you want to achieve.
Uh, oh, that's difficult. I guess I would like to know that, like, whatever area I'm performing in or conducting myself, that I'm doing it at least to the best of my ability, and I'm not just kind of like it. I do get scared that I will come to the end of my life and then I'll be like, I didn't really. I led it at 50%. I didn't lead it at like 100%.
Okay. Can you be more specific? Can we go deeper here?
Okay. So recently I moved back home to Reading. I was away in Leicester for a couple of years, and now I'm at home with my parents. And I would hope that the intention for coming back and looking after and moving back is to look after them and be there for them. But I hope I'm doing that like to the best of my ability, and it's not just a case of, well, I'm back now, and um, that's it.
Okay. So are you saying that you want to be like you want your parents to be proud of you? Do you feel like you want that kind of that sense of self? Just are you trying to justify that that you really matter, that you want something, some kind of indication that your sacrifice that you made by coming back is justified, right? Is there some kind of need there from from you
Mm.
know from a kind of an emotional perspective? Like what exactly? I mean, are we talking here that you want to be able to feel kind of justified in making that move back and coming here, um, or is it more a case of like that you're glad that you're back, but you just want to kind of really have some kind of meaning now that you're here.
I guess if I looked at it in the most simplest way, it would be that like, I'm now that I'm back, am I doing my best, or did I just move back and that was it? Like, am I really making the most of being back? Because
Yeah.
that's my worry, is that I just came back and you know, Allah knows what could happen, but I lived through these latter stages of my parents' life, and it was really at on autopilot and not like really being
Mm.
focused. That's kind of something that I would be worried about. I am worried
Okay.
about.
So why are you worried about that?
Um, because like time is really limited, and I don't want it. I don't want it to be. Uh, I don't want it that this limited amount of time is just wasted.
Okay. So that's a great answer. Time is obviously limited. So what's the pain then? What's the pain in not having what you want right now?
Uh, yeah, this is the bit that I was really like worried. How am I gonna how am I gonna avoid getting
You're on the
into it in
spot
the
now.
show? But I'll just say it. Do you know what? It's
Okay.
just I'm lazy. I'm very lazy, and it's that balance of um how little can I do to just get by, because that's how I am. But
Hmm.
then at the same time, it's not enough. Like, and I know it's not enough, and it annoys the heck out of me that it's not enough. So yeah,
Okay. I think I'm getting a little bit more deeper now with you. I'm beginning to understand what's going on here.
yeah,
So, okay, right. So I can feel the frustration and the pain. Um, so let's go to the visualization bit here then. So
okay.
if you was, swimming in the stream of time and, you were able to fast forward to the future,
Mm,
whether that's a few months down the line, whether that's a year, 2 years, 5 years, and you come out of the water on the other side of time, how does life look? Let's just imagine now you're in the future. Let's, just imagine this is Jubair fast forward, you know,
hmm
a year from now, 2 years, whatever, and how does life look now? What is that ideal that, that you're trying to achieve? What is that optimum kind of sense of worthiness, and what kind of lifestyle and what kind of relationships, business? How is it? How is it ideally? How should it be ideally? Well, let's imagine that you've got it. You've achieved it.
Yeah, I guess it would be a case of like the moment I wake up and I start going about my daily routines, that factored in there was all of the areas that I want to take care of. So, for example, if it's really making the most of being back for looking after my parents, it would be like I get up, come down, you know, do what I need to do with the kids, but then also I've got that fixed time and slot with my mum and my dad to do something with them. Because at the moment it's kind of like I'm just, when I'm requested to do something, then I'll do it. But it's not like I've got foresight that, oh, they might need this, and I'm just going to take care of it before it gets there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But let's dream a little bit more. Like let's just imagine everything's wonderful, right?
Hmm.
Everything's perfect. Amazing relationship with family, with the kids. Amazing relationship with mum and dad.
Mm.
Like let's just take the liberty here to dream, right? And where are you going? Where are you guys living? What kind of relationships do you have? What kind of endeavors are you involved in? How's business looking? Like let's just wave that magic wand here and imagine it's all done, it's all achieved, you
Yeah.
know, and allow yourself to dream a little bit.
Okay. All right. So it's a bigger house than now, so that mum and dad have got like comfortable room and they're not getting stressed out by my little ones like running around and making a mess and shouting and stuff. And
Just a little bit bigger. What's wrong with having a massive bungalow with your own swimming pool, your own villa, like having a house in every Islamic country in the world, so you can go and do, ziyarah and take your family with you, and like why kind
okay,
of
okay.
limit yourself?
All right. Yeah. So let's say it's much bigger and definitely got the swimming pool because I know that my mum would appreciate that. So swimming pool,
Inshallah.
um, self-driving car for dad because he needs to stop driving himself because I think it'd be just safer for everyone. And yeah, I think I'd love to give them a lot more independence so that they didn't have to like come to me and rely, so that they just be, they could feel that sense of independence that they had when they were younger.
Yeah.
So that would be great. And my mum works on uh, like a few little charity projects now, and maybe being able to just fly her overseas to go do those charity projects would be amazing. So that she
Inshallah.
doesn't even have to think about that. That'd be cool.
Massive.
And yeah, and yeah,
Take them Hajj, Umrah, whenever they want to go.
yeah, absolutely.
MashaAllah.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. So then, my next question would be, why not? Why haven't you achieved all the things that you said you want?
I think it just comes back to that laziness, Like I know there's things I could do, and then I'll just be like, you know what? I'll just chill out this morning, you know. If they need something,
Okay,
they'll let me know, and if there's a job on, then can I do it tomorrow? If I can do it tomorrow, then I'll do it tomorrow.
okay,
Yeah,
excellent, excellent. So, like, if we were to make a strategy or plan
yeah.
to try to address this issue,
Hmm.
how would we go about it? So, is there someone who you aspire to be like? Is there someone that you could reach out to and say, look, I want to have a deeper connection with family. I want to be able to kind of manage my time, better so that, I don't feel like I'm, just kind of reacting to when I'm needed. I'd rather be more proactive,
Hmm.
and attend to my family's needs, my own personal needs as well, so that I'm, able to allocate time to all the different things that are going on in my life, whether it's my business, whether it's my family, my parents. Like, maybe you could reach out to someone. Maybe there's some research you could do, like, about like finding that blessing, that barakah in your time. Maybe overcoming some of those I think those little whispers in your mind, because just listening to you, just based on our very brief exchange,
Hmm.
what I feel is that I feel like you're being tough on yourself.
Okay.
I think you're being very harsh on yourself, and it's very normal to do that. And I can, I've got the t-shirt, and I'm the king of procrastination and the king of not beating myself up. But I feel like you've achieved so much, right? So like if you just the fact that you've come back from another town, and I know Leicester as well. I've got family there. It's a very good place to be for someone who wants to raise children. Islamically, it's a very kind of spiritual environment. And you've kind of come back. You've made that sacrifice, I think, by coming back. Looking at the bigger picture, looking at the fact that maybe your parents would could do with that little bit of support and comfort around them as the years progress. If you look at yourself in terms of your business, 10 years ago, you didn't have your own podcast show. MashaAllah, you've got a good setup there. It's a very professional looking studio. I mean, there's so much progress. That doesn't sound like a lazy person to me. And yes, there's always room for improvement. Definitely.
Hmm.
You know, it's like I've got so many things, you know, that I keep, you know, brushing under the carpet and can, you know, really progress with. But you're taking the steps in the right direction. So I think your thinking needs to change in the sense that you need to think like, how can like speed up my progress? That's so much more positive way of looking at it rather than I'm lazy. How can I be better? You know, how can I be better? You know, how can I be a better son? You know, how can I be a better father? And it's just like, so what you're subconsciously telling yourself is that you're not good enough. I
Okay.
think deep down, the inner voice is like that I'm hearing is saying that I'm not good enough. And I think that's so untrue. Um, so the next step, you know, if we were doing a full session here, would be like to make a strategy or plan,
Yeah.
you know, like to help you like, overcome that. Okay, so you know, I would say that the problem here is like it's inside your head.
Yeah.
There is no problem with you at all. I think you're pressing the right buttons, you're doing everything right, mashallah. But I think you probably need to dedicate some time to yourself, 5-10 minutes every day, where you what I said earlier about remunerating those blessings that you've got,
Hmm.
because you know you've got a mum and dad. You know, last night we prayed Isha together,
Hmm.
and alhamdulillah, I lead the prayer at home, and mum and dad was sat there, and dad was reading some hadith, and I was just in awe. I was like, Ya Allah, you know, both of my parents are alive. Alhamdulillah, you know, obviously
Alhamdulillah.
we've got this whole COVID thing going on. Anything can happen, right? But,
Yeah.
you know, I might go before them, but just looking at them, I felt like I was being rewarded by God just for looking at them with a smile, right? They're alive. I can see them. Do you see what I mean? It's such a blessing. And yes, there's always room for improvement. Maybe I could serve them better, and, you know, I could, you know, try to make sure that my mum didn't have to cook anything, and you know, it would all be just prepared from outside and brought, you know, to her and things like that. There was always room for improvement. I could be better, definitely. But in that moment, I was just so happy, just
Hmm.
looking at them that they're alive and that they seem quite happy with me relatively. Okay, I'm not, you know, there's always room for improvement. Um, but I think, you know, you're just kind of a little bit tough on yourself. You know, if you were to make a strategy or plan, you know, I would say like, you know, maybe we could give you like a gratitude routine where 5-10 minutes every day you actually say out loud. You find a place where there's no one. You don't have to worry about what people are thinking. That people,
Hmm.
you know, that you don't have to worry that someone thinks you're going nuts or whatever. That you just shout out loud all the blessings that you have in your life, and you know you can call it affirmations. You know, there's so many different names for this, but ultimately all we're doing is just thanking Allah. It's a dua. I do it every day, almost every day. Like I just thank Allah for everything. You know, even after prayer, I'll do that sujood of shukr, and I'll start going through my list. Thank you, Allah, for health. Thank you for allowing me to do sujood. Thank you, Allah, for allowing me to say your name. You know, sitting, standing, reclining. When I wake up, when I go sleep. Thank you, Allah, for giving me family. Thank you for giving me a sense of touch, sense of hearing. I can taste food. You know, thank you for giving me a home. I'm so comfortable right now. It's warm. It's cold outside, but I'm warm. And I actually say these things. Yes, they're so obvious, and yes, we sometimes take them for granted, right? And
Mm.
I think that in itself would kind of help to replenish some of those feelings that you're getting, which I feel, in essence, what they are just whispers, inner whispers, telling you that you're not good enough, which
That's
is so untrue. That's my
honestly,
synopsis.
subhanallah. That's, you know what is incredible about that is that that observation is something that I have specifically identified over the last couple of years and been struggling with. So it's crazy that just in 5 minutes you just kind of hit the nail on the head. So subhanallah, thank you so much for that. That was amazing. And I guess I would hope that anyone who listened to that, like, just to be a little bit open and frank with everyone who's listening, and you know, I'm not ashamed of it, is what you what you observed is genuinely something, you know, like, we didn't script this. That's genuinely something that I do have a struggle with. You know, sometimes, like, if I'm on a like a film set with other video producers and there's someone who I can see is, you know, got some great material in their portfolio, I kind of feel a bit like, oh man, I haven't done anything with my life, and look at this guy, or woman or whoever. And so that's incredible that you're able to identify that. And also, I really appreciate the tip, the strategy as well. So that's amazing, and I would definitely say anyone who heard that to and benefited from it to then go and see it through, whether it's through like listening to that bit of advice or actually contacting you or people like you. What I'd like to we're just coming over an hour, and I'm really conscious I've taken up a lot of your time, and your time is really precious, and I really appreciate you for giving me your time. Is maybe just to wrap things up with two things. One is right now we are living in a very turbulent time, whether it's because of the situation with COVID-19 and the illness and the tragedy of losing many loved ones, especially our elders, and also very turbulent times in terms of race relations and the relationship between the left and right wing views that people have, and in America with Trump possibly getting re-elected, and there's just a lot of anxiety and uncertainty. What would you say to people to help them have some kind of tool in their toolkit to deal with this?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Just going back to the intervention that we done. So um, I just fast forwarded it a little bit there. Okay. So normally, just for
Yeah,
the benefit of your audience, normally, if
yeah,
we were having a strategy session, I wouldn't go so deep,
sure.
and I wouldn't, be just like tell you kind of there and then. This is what the problem is. This is how you fix it. It's just
Yes,
for the benefit. We just kind of, just did a brief intervention there.
taster.
Alhamdulillah,
Yeah,
I'm glad that you found benefit in it. And I'm more than happy to share my gratitude routine with you and any of your listeners, inshallah. But just for the benefit of the audience, that we wouldn't necessarily go so deep. It was just it's I would have got you to actually put a plan in place, and
hmm,
I may have made some suggestions that maybe you can incorporate this, or maybe I might have suggested, hey, I've got a gratitude routine. I think you really could benefit from this. Do you want to, I can give this to you, free as my gift for you reaching out, to schedule this session. So that's how we would have kind of done the session. But just for the benefit of the audience, I just kind of did that little intervention there with you. Thank you for playing all out. And that's one thing I would say to people, is that you only get out of these sessions what you put in. And mashallah, you really bared your soul there. You were very transparent, and that is so hard, especially for a man. Okay,
yeah, it's
so
hard.
mashallah, may Allah reward you. Barakallahu fikum. That
Every,
was
every.
excellent, mashallah. So with regards to your question about the times that we live in and how to manage the situation, obviously with the whole pandemic and the racism, and how we as human beings, and more specifically maybe as Muslims, how do we translate all of these things, and how do we manage all of that, which is, I think, is what you're asking. I think that we as human beings have to really take care of what we expose ourselves to. Um,
Mm,
so I think I did briefly touch upon this at the beginning, that, and
yeah.
it's good that we're ending on this, in the sense that, be careful what you expose. I mean, for example, people are obsessed with the news,
Hmm.
right? And like, even my dad, he has this sound that plays on his phone every time the BBC has a new alert, right? And most of that, if you look at those alerts, that are those feeds that come through, most of it is sad, negative stuff.
Hmm.
If it's not terrorism, it's okay. Racism is the in thing at the moment. It's the pandemic. The statistics of how many people have died in the UK, which, like, was it 40K or something now, right? So, I mean, okay, if you're a strong individual, you might not get depressed by being constantly exposed to all this negativity, but you ain't gonna be like on, like, like top optimum level. You
Yeah.
ain't gonna be bouncing around happy and chirpy, and your family and friends thinking, what's he happy about? But
Hmm.
that's how we should be. We
Yeah.
should be like kids. We can learn so much from kids. See how kids have this fluctuation of emotions. Yes, they're sad, but it's very brief. It's very in the moment, and then they just all of a sudden forget their sadness, and they're laughing and they're having a great time. We just need to just be like kids. Exposing ourselves to negative news, to negative people. It's just not. It's not gonna help us.
Hmm.
And I mean, you touched upon Trump, right? Um, one of my friends, he said something very interesting, and it resonated with me to some extent. You say all you want about him. You could say, maybe he's not the most eloquent speaker. You can say that, he's Probably his power and money helped, to kind of get him to where he has reached. But this guy has so much confidence in himself,
Hmm.
right? And he's probably, manifested becoming president of the US, right? Because of that immense self-belief. He probably told himself that he was going to become president one day. I won't be surprised. But one thing I'd say about him is that he's not a warmonger. Up until now, from what I've seen,
Mm.
the Trump administration, they're not, he's more of a businessman. He's more about, kind of, and the economy was thriving until obviously this whole pandemic thing kicked in.
Hmm.
And, he was very swift just to blame it all on China. Whether that's true or not, that's another debate altogether. But, you know, it's just, I think that we just need to be careful not to go too much into these things.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm just giving the example of Trump here. Yes, there's lots of things there. When he first came into administration, he really targeted Muslims. He used the Muslim card to, kind of touch, resonate with the masses, especially the Americans that live in rural communities and don't get exposed to the kind of what's going on in the wider world. Um, but he's not really a warmonger. He hasn't really kind of talked about Afghanistan so much, of Iraq and these places. He's just a businessman, so he looks at things, kind of from a business perspective, and where there's value, he'll kind of, he'll go with the flow, as it were. But what I'm saying is that we don't necessarily need to get caught up in all of that. Too many Muslims are, especially even in mainstream media, it's too many Muslims arguing, and you might win the argument, but you won't win people's hearts that way.
Hmm.
And I feel like as Muslims, we just need to take a step back. Just have some gratitude routine in your life on a daily basis, 5 minutes. Read some Quran, do some dhikr. And what I would say is, like, go to sleep with a clean heart. If you can go to sleep forgiving everyone, having no malice, no envy, no hatred, for anyone, no jealousy, forgiving anyone that's done you wrong, right? Even if you hate Trump, just forgive him before you go sleep. If Allah wills, he'll become Muslim one day, inshallah. Okay, so
Inshallah.
it's like, yeah, I just feel like, you're just not really helping yourself. You take COVID, for example. There's so much to do with COVID. There's people out there that need help. They need medicine supplies. They need food delivered to them,
Hmm.
right? We should be at the forefront because that's what our religion teaches us. This is such a great opportunity, or has been a great opportunity, for Muslims to show themselves in a positive light. But if we just say, no, I'm going to stay at home, I'm not going to expose myself, and I'm going to protect myself. Yeah, of course we need to protect ourselves. We need to protect the wider community, definitely. But if there is an opportunity, if you're healthy and you're able to help someone whilst taking the precautions, obviously adhering to the guidelines given by the authorities, then definitely, we should be going that extra mile. There's no problem in sending a message to a friend, just saying, look, just thought I'd check, see how you are, and I haven't spoken to you for a while. Or maybe putting a note through your neighbor's letterbox saying, hi, my name's so and so, this is my number if you need anything. Sorry, I've not really kind of reached out before. Because there's so many of us out there that don't really connect with our neighbors. And I'm talking about immediate neighbors, like next door, right? There's people, I know examples, people have never even said hello to their neighbors,
Hmm.
right? So this is such a great opportunity to do something positive. And what will that do? That will then make you feel more relaxed. That will give off positive molecules in your brain, which will make you sleep more peacefully at night. If you do 5 minutes of exercise, that will really help you to just kind of get relaxed, start get blood circulating in your body. There's so much to do. Journaling, just getting your thoughts out of your head, writing them down in a diary or a book. It really helps to kind of get rid of some of those negative thoughts and feelings that are just circulating in our head. So much we can do, honestly, and I think this is really not the time to kind of go into hibernation, and like hide ourselves. But I think, to go back to your question, I think it's just control what we expose ourselves. Especially news. I think that is like just so key, and just focus on yourself, focus on your physical well-being, your mental well-being, take care of people around you, treat every day, every moment like it's your last moment, that you might not have your family with you tomorrow, and just be happy and accept that things aren't going to be hunky-dory, accept that things aren't going to be perfect in life. And if we do that, then I think that, alhamdulillah, we'll be so much more at ease with ourselves, at ease with life, and then consequently we'll be able to also that radiance will reflect on others, and will be maybe, we'll be able to be a means of change for others through love, through our good character, rather than what we see with Muslims now, just arguing and trying to debate. And there's just there's no mercy nowadays. Honestly, we just need to show more mercy to ourselves. Just forgive people. Like, forgiveness is such a key concept, right? Because when you forgive someone who's done you wrong, you're okay, you're forgiving them, but you're actually forgiving yourself. And some people would say, like, how can you forgive yourself if someone has abused you and done you wrong and always tries to put thorns in your path? When you forgive them, you actually forgive yourself of anxiety, of, like, of anger, of frustration. Your blood boils when you think of that person. All those negative emotions, you start thinking about all the historical events that have happened with this person, and it just puts you into a downward spiral. So you're
Mm.
actually forgiving, and I think release is probably a better word. You're releasing yourself of all of those negative emotions. So I think that those are the things that we need to really focus on, and this is, definitely what our religion teaches. This is what the Islamic mentors preach. The sheikhs. This is what they teach, and this is what they preach. So I think we just need to go back to our traditional roots, really, and just take a step back from everything. I mean, look at life now. We're managing to survive on less money. We're living very frugal, simple lives. I'm
Mm.
realizing that I really don't need to earn as much as I thought I did to be able to survive. We're not eating out as much yet. Alhamdulillah, food is delicious. We're surviving. Okay, there was a problem with bog roll in the early days,
Yeah.
but that's sorted as well now, right?
Yeah.
So alhamdulillah, there's so much to celebrate. And yes, of course, there is this worry and this concern about COVID, but am I gonna just like depress myself by worrying about the fact that I could? I mean, I'm an asthmatic. I have some respiratory problems. Now, if I just worry about the fact that I'm going to catch this from someone, and that it could affect me more than someone who doesn't have any respiratory problems, then I'm just gonna be sad and frustrated. I'm gonna lock myself, away into a room.
Mm.
It's not the way. That's not the way to deal with problems in life. So I just feel that as Muslims, we just need to really, as human beings, to be honest, as human beings, we just need to take a step back and just be grateful. This whole lockdown situation has been a blessing in so many ways, honestly. And we just need to focus on those things rather than the things that aren't quite right.
MashaAllah.
And then eventually we'll be able to go out again and go to those fancy restaurants, and but then that will bring its own challenges again. So alhamdulillah, I think we just need to live in the now. That's the main thing.
MashaAllah. I think that's incredible advice, and I really think the advice of like limiting what you expose yourself to is so important and really, really underappreciated right now. And I kind of like make the analogy of, it's kind of like if you eat junk food, like if that's what you put into your body, then that's going to manifest itself with a very unhealthy body. And it's the same with the mind, I guess, where if you sort of consume junk media all the time, very disposable, very immediate, and very harmful, the long-term effect is that it's going to leave you with a negative mindset. So I really appreciate that. And I also really appreciate the concept of forgiveness, because that's something, especially in today's sort of like cancel culture era, where people just want to hate on people, that 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 mindset seems like it's the most healthy and will allow for the most healing. So honestly, Brother Shazad, this has to be one of my favorite episodes of our podcast that we've ever done. Like, yeah, like, no, I feel bad that Brother Abdin's not here to join me on this one, but I'm gonna get him to watch it and he'll enjoy it. But this was incredible, and I took so much from it, and I'm sure people who watch and listen also took loads from it. Just a final thing: where can people find you? I know you have a podcast and you're building up and you're doing more and more on social media. Where can people find you? Where can they reach out to you if they want your services, or if they want to just hear more of your words?
Yeah, inshallah. And I just want to thank you as well. Thank you for having me. And thank you for being so transparent, so open. Mashallah, I follow you as well. I love the work that you're doing. It would have been great to have Brother Abdin here as well, mashallah. He's a very charming brother, mashallah. And maybe we can do something again in future. You can reach out to me via Facebook. If you search for guidance coaching, inshallah, I also have a dedicated service for the Muslim community under the name of Muslim Relationship Coaching on Facebook, which you can reach out to me via. You can email me. My email address is info@guidancecoaching.net. And if you happen to live in Reading, inshallah, we can maybe meet at one of the masajid, alhamdulillah, when things get better. Yeah, just thank you so much, and it's been a real privilege and honor. And inshallah, I hope that this can be a means of guidance or of benefit to your audience, inshallah.
Inshallah.